Baseball, not always the best team wins, right? You got to still go out there and get it done.
Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast. First week of the new year, 2026. We're happening. As always, baseball talk powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. It is that time of year. We're in January, so you might as well get your schedule. If you haven't got it done yet, register your teams. Check out the slate of tournaments going on at Game 7 Baseball. Right up your alley. We're going to be at quite a few of them. We'll be out. Come check us out on our Saturday at the park. We have a lot of fun. We give away baseball cards. We talk baseball. We do trivia. We do interviews. We do highlights. We do a lot of things. And we'll be rolling out there, as always, with our good folks at Game 7 Baseball. Make sure you register. We got some... you can go check out where we're going to be at youthbaseballmidwest.com. The tournaments that we will be with Game 7 Baseball are there. We have our 14U tournament. Looking forward to that. We had 28 teams last year. We want to get there again this year. Be a lot of fun. Come on out. We got that Super 7 going on. It's 14U only. We're looking forward to seeing you. As always, you can follow us on X at YBM_cast, on IG and Facebook at Youth Baseball Midwest. And guess what? I'm an old guy, so this TikTok thing is kind of weird for me. But we're there now. They finally put us on TikTok. You can follow at Youth Baseball Midwest on TikTok as well. So we already have some followers. That's what's kooky to me. I don't know what the hip term is for that right now, so there you go. Anywho, we've arrived. So check us out on our socials. Please do. Today on the show, Prime Sports call link. What's that, Dave?
I was gonna ask, do you have around 6-7 followers? Is that what you got?
He did that.
I have to leave. I'm sorry. I forgot it's Wednesday at 1 o'clock. I got something on my calendar. I have to go. I have to go volunteer at the animal shelter.
Let's definitely going on TikTok now.
I can't do the show anymore. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. On the Prime Sports call link, the aforementioned Dave Wiggins. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to be on. Good to be on in 2026.
And from the great state, how's that? The great state of Illinois. I said that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Is Diego Solares. Diego, what's going on, man?
How we doing, fellas? It's good to be here.
You guys, Dave, did you enjoy your time off with the family?
I did, yeah. My 2 and 4-year-old were both off for 2 whole weeks from their daycare, so got to spend some real quality time with them. That was awesome. Lots of fun. We took them to Branson for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, so had a little mini family vacation there, and had a great old time. And now we're back at it.
There you go. Love it. Diego, how about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, good family time. My podcast co-host, my cat, is about to join us shortly, I believe, as he has several times on this show. But it was good. Good couple of weeks off, ready to get after it now.
There we go. It is that time. We're here. We're ready to go. It's January. Guys, baseball is taking off. I did some research over the couple weeks because it's the first time I did this. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. Dave, you probably know this. Probably Missouri. I don't know about Illinois, how they count it, but I'm working on the Illinois side right now because these are things that are always interesting to me because you get classifications. Now, I don't know if they do it the same in Illinois, but Missouri, the classifications always come out like there he is.
There he is. Every time we're here, he joins the podcast.
He loves it, man. That's cool. But the classifications come out about a week after the season starts, things like that. So, but I started looking at the enrollment. Dave, is the enrollment based on freshman to junior, or is it the whole of classes?
That's a great question, Brian. I want I want to say freshman to senior, but I'm not 100% positive. Yeah, I'm not going to prepare to know.
Okay, all right, that's cool. I'm looking it up. I've been looking around. I didn't see. I think from what I'd heard, it was only the bottom three classes, freshman to junior, is what they count in
Okay.
enrollment.
I mean, that would make sense, I guess.
Right? I don't know. I think it would be the hard because for instance, like they had. Well, we'll look at this. Your old school there, Webster Groves. They have them for this year at 925. Does that sound like the full school?
I want to say, yeah, I want to say there's 11 or 1200 there. So, yeah, maybe it is those three classes. When I graduated, I was in a class of over 350. So that would definitely put us up over 1200.
Yeah.
There's no way we dropped 300 since the Stone Age, in 2004. So.
That's what I'm thinking. So I think that sounds about right. And so we're just looking at so on the other side of that, Diego, do you know how the classifications, do they do that similar thing?
They don't put them out after the season. I'm sure everybody goes into the season knowing what class they are. As far as how enrollment is counted, I'm not entirely sure. I graduated with 1,100 kids in my class, and I think our enrollment was 4,000. So I would think that it counts all four classes, but I don't know.
You graduated with 1,100. That was your graduating class? 1,100.
Yeah, I went to a pretty big high school. Yeah.
Goodness mercy. What school was that?
Wow.
Huntley. It's just out northwest burbs of Chicago, about 45 minutes northwest of Chicago. We didn't have to sit through. We didn't have to sit through graduation though, because we had a baseball game, so we got to leave early. It's pretty cool. Just sitting through 1,100 kids probably would have taken a really long time.
Especially if your last name is in the Z's.
Yeah, well, S is towards the back, so I would have been there for a while, but we got to leave early. So,
wow, guys. The metro area, we've been talking a lot about that. Both sides of the state, and I know there's a lot of teams that will cross state lines and play each other and do different things that way. I think because if I'm not mistaken, I think Edwardsville and Jackson are playing this year as well, which I think it would be a fantastic matchup. Do you, when you start looking at the metro area, let's talk about the level of play first and foremost. When we're talking about putting these teams up against the rest of the state, do you see a state champion coming from our neck of the woods, either on the Illinois or Missouri side? I know it's early, but we might as well just put it out there. Go ahead, Diego.
I would say, obviously there's less schools on the Illinois side than there are in St. Louis, in the metro area at least. But I look at it and I would say like Edwardsville is always going to be in contention for a state championship. I think they'll be a little down this year by their standards. That doesn't mean they're not going to be good, but they graduated the 2025 class that had a boatload of guys that had played for a really long time, like Joe Chirotto was there since his freshman year. Tyler Powell was there since his freshman year. Like Lucas Krebs at Illinois now, he was there since his sophomore year. Like they had a ton of seniors starting last year. So I think there's a lot of question marks with that team, but they're Edwardsville and they'll figure it out and they'll pull some guy no one's ever heard of and he'll hit 400 and be really good. That's what they do every year. So I don't think you can count them out. I mean, O'Fallon, they did lose a decent amount from last year. They do bring back a ton. They made it to a sectional championship last year, so if they would have won that game, they would have been a game away from state. Don't think you can count them out. I mean, Father McGivney is going to be playing 2A this year, and they lost a bunch too. Like their 2025 class was pretty extensive in terms of guys that had been there for a while and mainstay producers on both sides of the ball. But I mean, it's Father McGivney's the private school, small school version of Edwardsville, essentially. So I wouldn't count them out either. And then I think as you start to kind of go away from the metro area, which I know we're not talking about that today, but the further east you go into truly southern Illinois and up into Springfield and the Effingham area, like you're going to find a lot of teams. Like T-Town stands out to me as a lot of teams that is one of the teams that could push for a state title. Freeburg is another one that I would keep an eye on down here. Because one, if they're 2A, I would definitely keep an eye on them. But if they're playing, if they're up in 3A this year, I think that the regional that they would play in and the sectional that they would play in is a little down from what it normally is. And that team has a chance to be really good. They've got some really good 2027s, a really good catcher, a legit arm, a third baseman that can swing it. One of the best coach teams in the area every year. There's a lot of history behind them. So I think as a whole on the Illinois side, it's probably a little down than what it was last year, just because the 2025 class was like actually special, like truly special. And obviously, like when a senior class is really special, like at that level, the next year is probably not going to be as good. Just kind of how high school baseball goes, especially at the public school level. But that doesn't mean that I don't think there's a handful of teams that can still make a run for a true like state title contender.
Yeah.
And he's back.
And he's back. Dave, your thoughts on the Missouri side?
I think my eyes are watering because of Diego's cat.
Honestly, the fact that my dog's not here either makes it better because then we'd have the two of them in the same room.
So. When you're talking about the state of Missouri, obviously you have to give respect to the Southwest and the Southeast part, and obviously the Kansas City side. But when we're talking about just St. Louis area teams, we've hit on them a little bit before. Obviously with the staff and the and the college ready lineup that they have, Lindbergh with the depth that they have and the. I mean, they've got guys that have been playing since they were freshmen. They're young, but they also have some upper class leadership there. Those two teams, in my mind, coming out of the Suburban, could make a run for a state title. Francis Howell is obviously, they're always in the mix. On the mound, they're still really, really good. The lineup, they graduated some key pieces there, but they're Francis Howell. They reload every year. So you figure they're going to find a way to score runs as they always do. Those three are kind of the ones that we've highlighted as potentials for a state championship at the Class 6 level. There's other teams in St. Louis that I think will definitely make a push and that will surprise us. But if you're talking about the three that we really feel confident can make that push, those are the three that I would probably champion. Those are probably my top three if you were to ask me about St. Louis area Class 6.
Yeah, I don't disagree. we will have it coming up, and that's why I want to. Oh, I'm going to do this because I didn't do it already. I didn't do it earlier, so I'm going to do it now because it's a great segue. Thank you, Dave. But we got some great stuff coming up. We went down to Lindbergh before the Christmas break and had a great conversation with Coach Scott. We had Aiden Kennedy with us and Austin Jones in that conversation. Coach Scott, that's the first time we've met and we've talked a little bit here and there. This is the first time I got a chance to really just talk with him, and he showed us his file cabinet with all of his cards and his history of playing. And in fact, he had a card. He texted it to me because he was coaching when my nephew was playing at Lafayette. This was in 2010. He had a card on my nephew in that lineup with all those guys back then. So it was really cool, seeing that history of those things and whatnot. Just great information. And those are coming up, our coaches previews. We got those coming up. If you want to, please, we love the support we get. You want to subscribe, but we started our YBM club. We're dropping exclusive content, and Mr. Wiggins is on there right now. We have some exclusive content in the YBM club, in the club with Coach Wiggins. We're breaking down our not too early top 10 on the STL Suburban Conference, and you can listen to him talk in depth about these teams, and he has a great wealth of knowledge about the kids around this area. So please, if you want to support us, it helps us continue to join the YBM club, become a legacy member. 50% off right now. We're going to give that to the first 100 club members. It helps us continue to do what we do, and we appreciate it greatly. So we're dropping that. We have the Three Amigos on there right now. Our first player spotlight. Dave was there with us. We called it the Three Amigos because I thought it was great with Brady Tanner, Nolan Sissom, and Brendan Pyle. That was a fun conversation. I enjoyed the heck out of talking with those three guys. Dave, you've known these kids a long time. They're quality kids too, aren't they?
They're awesome. They're some of my absolute favorites. They kind of had a moniker on our team, DFs, Dave's favorites, which is kind of funny. They're easy to get along with. They're fun and they like to have a good time, but they're also mature beyond their years where you can have an adult conversation with them. They understood what it took to get to the next level. They worked hard to get there. They're all three going to have great senior years. But yeah, just great conversation. They're, like I said, they're clearly, liked by a lot of people and there's a good reason for that. So.
Yeah. And it was great. I love the conversation between the three of them. They play in the summer together, but you got Francis Howell and Fort Zumwalt West. You have this banging rivalry, and these three guys, and it was fun watching listening to the dynamics of that. And it's good. So please, we got some great stuff coming up. We also had a chance to talk with Craig Ringy from Eureka High School, third baseman. That's going to drop this coming Saturday in the club. We're also going to drop, we had a great conversation with Graydon Suferling from Blue Springs South, a pitcher, dynamic young player. He's headed to Wake Forest. That's dropping in the third week in this month in the club. So we got some great content coming up, folks. So please, we appreciate the support. So back to our regularly scheduled program. Diego, you've seen a lot of players. You've been around this scenario a lot. In Illinois, the dynamics are a lot different than here in Missouri. Can you, we're watching Class 5 and 6 on this side, and you're seeing a lot of teams really have to stack up pitching. You're working on development of pitching freshman and sophomore classes, because by the time you get to that junior, senior class, you're going to need to be, especially class 5 and 6, you're going to need to be 7, 8 deep, especially when you get in. If you're fortunate enough to get into the quarterfinals, you've got to have that pitching depth. Is it still the same thought process in Illinois with the dynamics of the playoff system?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thought process at any level of baseball, really. You just need to have a ton of really good arms. I think it's a little different in Illinois, just given the fact that, like, when the playoffs roll around, you're playing a game on, I'm pretty sure typically it's like Wednesday is a regional semi, Saturday is a regional championship, Wednesday is a sectional semi. So, like, really until you get to a super. So after you've played 4 playoff games, after you've won 4 playoff games, you really only need 2 arms. Now, that's probably not the best strategy, right? Is to just bank on 2 guys. But in postseason play, technically, like if you had 2 really good arms that could both throw an entire game, you would only need 2 guys until you got to a super sectional, and then even when you got to state, like you would only really need 2 guys. You start one guy in a semi and one guy in a championship. Now, how many times does that happen where only 2 pitchers have thrown all the way to a state run? I doubt it. It's just not a very good success plan. I will say the one thing that I have noticed, at least on this side in the Metro East, is that the teams that just have the big arm, but maybe lack in other areas, they don't really win in the playoffs a whole lot here. So, like, 2 examples. In 2023, like Xander Muth, who was a second-round pick by the Pirates, he signed for $2 million, went to Belleville East. They ran up against Edwardsville in a sectional semi. And that's not a great example because their pitching staff was loaded. But, like, going into that game, everybody was like, oh, well, Belleville East is going to beat Edwardsville because they got their guy. Like, they got their guy going. And I'm pretty sure Edwardsville run ruled them. I'm pretty sure it was 10-0 in 5 innings. And then again, Edwardsville, like the next year in 24, they faced Ethan Bagwell in round 1. He was a 7th-round pick by the Braves, almost signed for $1 million, and they beat him too. So it's like, I think the talent of the baseball and like the talent of the Southwestern Conference, where like not only are you seeing these guys in conference play, you're seeing the same guys in regional play and sectional play. It goes a little further than just, okay, the team that has the one shutdown arm, like, go ahead, pencil them into the next round. Like, that team hasn't necessarily always been super successful come postseason play. But yeah, obviously, like, if you have a ton of good arms, like, you're always going to be favored to win games. Like, that's kind of how it works, right? Especially in high school baseball. If you roll out 4, 5, 6, 88, 91 mile an hour arms, like some of these schools are fortunate enough to have, like, you're going to be okay, as long as you can muster some offense. But at the high school level, like, there's ways to create runs. Like, we've seen, I mean, like Edwardsville, I just keep referencing them because they've been the standard around here. But like, they've had teams that can bang it, and then they've had teams where they can also get away from the slug and be able to create some chaos and bunt and run and hit and run and slap the ball around and stuff like that. So, to your original point, like, yeah, even though the playoff structure is different and like technically in like a utopia perfect type world, you only have to use 2 guys for 90% of the playoff run. I don't know if that's a great strategy. The deeper your pitching staff is, you're probably going to be better off.
Yeah, absolutely, always. Dave, with the new structure in class 5 and 6, with the 2 out of 3, I love that part. I really do. I think it's fantastic for high school baseball, especially in Missouri. But it has pushed, I think, the thought process. And what are you hearing when you're talking to coaches about that topic?
Yeah, I think the majority of them like it. Obviously, they like baseball's meant to be played in series, so the opportunity to play that in a series. I mean, personally, I think if you're going to play the quarterfinal in a series, then you should also play the state Final Four in a series. Why just have one series and go back to single elim? I mean, maybe that's a field time issue at US Ballpark in Ozark. I don't know, but I think if you really want to enhance the quality of the competition, you roll with a series in the next round too. So obviously people are a fan of the semifinal or the quarterfinal series. Yeah, you need more depth. When in 24 we just had to beat Festus once, and we were able to roll Torbett out there in the district championship, the quarterfinal, and game and the semifinal game. So he threw 3 games in a row for us and got us to the state championship game. No longer can you do that at the Class 5, Class 6 level. You got to have at least 2. And that's if they throw CGs, which with these pitch count limitations, fewer and fewer kids are throwing CGs now. So you need a quality bullpen arm or 2, or maybe your 3rd or 4th starter that slides into that bullpen role when you get deep into the playoffs. But yeah, I haven't really found anyone that opposes that series rule. I've found a couple that are with me where, hey man, if we're gonna play a series in the quarters, let's do it again. Excuse me, in the state playoffs too. So
Do you think it would be cool to see like a College World Series playoff format?
that'd be really cool. Yeah, I mean, but you're gonna have to do it in more than a 2-day weekend. And that's the already you're kind of butting up against summer baseball in Missouri and Illinois, and the last thing that these summer organizations and teams and people want is high school baseball to go on even longer into June. So I think there's a multitude of reasons for why they're not doing it that way. You're allowed 36 regular season games in Missouri. You could cut that to 32, and you could start the playoffs a week early. There's ways to get around it. But just everyone I talk to, and even myself included, if we've got the arms for it, we want to play as many games as we can. If you're going to give us 36, we're going to try to get as close to 36 as we can. And that's just kind of most of the coaches I talk to, that's kind of how they feel as well.
Now, as we're talking about high school baseball and the development of this thought process, when you start talking about, let's look at, you talk about Class 3, you talk on the Illinois side, I think is a similar thought process. When you start about Class 5, Class 4, you get into those things over here on this side. You start looking at the depth level, and how many teams in that Class 5, Dave, do you think in this metro area have that you've seen, that you're aware of, that you think have that kind of depth?
I mean, not nearly as many as the Class 6 schools. Rockwood Summit comes to mind as a Class 5 team that would have that depth. In 24, I would say that we did at Webster, just given, we had 4 senior arms that were, 4 senior arms that were really good. We had a couple junior arms that were good. So we had that depth. We typically don't, or Webster typically doesn't. I'm not there anymore. Yeah, man, I struggle. If Vianney remains Class 5, I'm sure they do. They made the championship game last year, so that should bump them to 6. So, then they're not in the conversation for Class 5. Parkway Central usually has 1 or 2, doesn't normally have that type of depth, depending on where Parkway West falls. They have 1 or 2 pretty solid ones. Yeah, it's hard for Class 5 schools, especially in St. Louis. Now, I tell you this, Willard's Class 5 most of the time, and they've got enough depth to feed 3 varsity teams. So, I know a lot of that could just be that they're not in St. Louis, and they're not, they're pulling from one small town, and all those kids are going to that school, and not many of them are getting ate up by private schools. So, I think the rural Class 5 schools might have a little bit more depth, just given that reason, and just how strong the private school presence is here in the metro area. It's hard for Class 5 schools to have that kind of pitching depth.
Well, I think Festus.
Sorry,
No, you're fine. I think Festus down there always seems to be, but you get, you look at Metro, but they're a little bit for, maybe a little more rural.
You
South.
can absolutely throw them. There's a reason Festus usually wins that district, and it's because of their pitching depth. Offensively, Hillsboro's right there with them, maybe even a little better. Farmington had a power arm, and Aiden Redmond, who's only 5'8", throwing 95 down at Jeffco. They got Trevor Sutherland from the left side. So they had a couple good arms, but then you have Festus, who just had a wealth of arms, and sometimes that's the X factor.
Yeah.
And I mean, baseball and softball, like it's hard to say flat out you're the better team, because the pitcher means so much. They mean so much. And if your dude isn't on the mound that day and the other team's dude is, like, that could be all it takes. Whereas in basketball and football and soccer and hockey, everybody plays every game. The quarterback doesn't play one every 4 games in football, so I think it's harder to say, yeah, we're state champs, we're the best team in Missouri. You're probably not the best team in Missouri. You were just the best for that run of 3 or 4 games. So that's, yeah.
Sorry, Diego. I would actually say, like, whatever class they are, I would definitely keep an eye on Vianney on the pitching side. Like, I've heard some pretty impressive things about Zach Van Hook this winter already. They got Max Flores, the lefty junior, going to Bradley. They got Sam Smith, who's an upper 80s arm, going to Northwest Missouri State. Like, Ben Theroff comes back. He was really good last year. He had a sub-2 ERA and almost 50 innings. He's going to Rockhurst. Like, if Van Hook is as good as, like, I think he can be, and he was hurt last year, it was a freak injury. Like, I think he hurt his wrist doing a PFP in practice. They're going to be like, that's 4 upperclassmen arms, and then you factor in the younger Dorman, who it looks like he's going to be just as good as his older brother. Easton Benz is a sophomore that came to one of our events. It was low 80s, really athletic, clean arm, 3 pitches, all for strikes. Like, they're going to have a chance. I mean, it's Vianney, like, they're always going to be good, but, like, they have a guy who can be an ace and, like, is a performer in game. Actually, 2 guys that are performers in game. That's a pitching staff that I wouldn't want to face.
There you go.
They also get quality innings out of their lesser known guys too. They're upper 70s, low 80s arms. Like Evan Bunn had a heck of a season last year as a junior. He's a senior. Riker Benz threw a ton for them, his junior and senior year, and pitched well. Trey Joswikowski. I mean, they find a way, even with the guys that aren't necessarily known as premier arms, to still find them time on the mound where they can be effective. That's going to be. They're always tough, but that's going to be a tough staff.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think part of how good a pitching staff is too, like, sometimes I think that gets overlooked is how good the defense is behind them, right? Like, we sit here and we look at pitching staffs and we identify guys that have really good numbers, and maybe if you have a guy that has a super good number, like a really low ERA in a high workload, and he doesn't walk guys, but he's not striking guys out, well, that means that the ball is getting put in play a lot, which means that if the ball is getting put in play a lot, the guys behind him are good. And, like, a team like Vianney, like, their shortstop's going to John A. Logan, who's probably one of the 5 best junior colleges within 500 miles of where we're sitting right now. Their catcher's going to Drury. Like, that's a team I would definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, they could get back to Class 6, but I think they would compete at the Class 6 as well. I don't think they would, have too much. I thought they were going to be Class 6 last year, but the championship points.
They beat every Class 6 team they played last year. So,
they
lost to 2 Class 5 teams.
It's funny, but Platte County last year, I think they could have been a Class 6 school. That team they were just good. And Platte County, we were talking about that in the other show, Coach Josenberger. We're going to be at Platte County. We're doing a game at Platte County, and it's against Staley. They schedule.
Yeah, it's a big time matchup.
Yeah, you're not shrinking away. Platte County plays a tough schedule, and I love that from Coach Sipes. He doesn't, bow away, and they definitely were not. And Vianney, that can be intimidating. That was a heck of a lineup, but they just weren't overwhelmed by it. They're not. They've seen it. They're playing the Liberties, the Liberty Norths, the Staleys on their schedule, and so uh, what's the difference? There wasn't a lot of difference in that respect. So I think that's a big key. And I think when you're looking at Class 5, I think St. Dominic's going to be an interesting one in the metro area here on this side as well, guys. That I think KRL's doing a great job. They got some kids coming back, and they've got some pitching depth. We had a conversation that's going to be on with KRL. They got new facilities. Ooh, you talk about some nice facilities over there, boys. It's nice. The school's doing it up right. New weight room and everything. They're
They moved
taking
the
care of it.
scoreboard. They put the scoreboard where it belongs, thankfully.
Yes.
That was not. I've made a couple trips to St. Dominic in my day, and that was not one of my favorite places to watch a baseball game. So I'm glad that they were able to renovate it. I know I haven't been out there since the renovations, but I've seen the pictures. It looks incredible, and I'm happy for them because it was a tough place to watch a game in past years.
Yeah. Two schools, that kind of on the outside from this side, Pacific and Union, they lost some arms. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But as far as the Class 3, there's not really that smaller school in that metro area, the Southwestern Conference, and then you have some of the smaller schools in the Illinois side. Is that correct, Diego? Or unless it just moves further out, right?
Yeah, you've got Waterloo, you've got Muscuda. I mean, Triad's 3A, Muscuda's 3A, Waterloo's 3A, Freeburg, they were 3A last year. Maybe they bumped down to 2A. Um, we've talked about this, like we did that whole Mississippi Valley Conference preview show a couple weeks ago. I think Triad's not to say they'll be as good as they were last year. It probably is a little too far considering they finished third in state last year and had a ton of really good seniors. But I think they'll be really good still. They'll be young, like they have a ton of 2027s that are going to be really good. Muscuda is missing their guy who's been their guy, Austin Musso, who's going to pitch on the weekends as a freshman, probably at Arizona State. He's gone. So they're going to have to find a way to replicate that, not only what he does on the mound, but at the plate too. I love Waterloo. Like I think there's some unprovenness, like we talked about in that podcast. They don't have a ton of guys that have a lot of experience under their belt, but they have a ton of talent. It's a new coach. It's a young team. I think they're going to be a team that really competes up there for that conference championship. We touched on Freeburg. And then, after those, like it's really a lot of 2A and 1A schools. Once you get away from like the Metro East, once you get away from the Southwestern Conference and like the 10 schools in the Southwestern and Mississippi Valley Conference that are like the usual players, it's a ton of 1A and 2A. It's a ton of Roxana, Breeze Central. Columbia is always good. Like the further you go, Teutopolis was playing for a state title last year. Probably should have won a state title last year. They bring back like their whole team basically. Sacred Heart Griffin and Springfield won the state title last year in 2A, and they bring back a lot. They have one of the best freshmen in the whole state too, who will be an impact right away. Like it's a little tough. Like it's obviously it's a totally different dynamic from St. Louis, where you just have a ton of schools packed within an hour of each other, and they're all levels, like all sorts of classes. And you got Class 6, Class 5, Class 4. You got the city schools, South County, out in O'Fallon, Wentzville area. Illinois is way more like here's 10 schools, and then let's drive 150 miles in every direction and find the rest of them all over the state. But I think the 1A and 2As are going to be good, like really good. I think there's going to be some really good teams in 1A and 2A this year in Illinois. A lot of teams that were really good last year that bring back a ton of guys. So that's always interesting to me, like especially because most of the smaller schools in Illinois are public schools. Like at least in Central and Southern Illinois, you don't see a ton of 1A, 2A private schools. You obviously have your Father McGivney's and your your Sacred Hearts and whatnot. But I would say a majority of the Illinois private schools are concentrated in Chicago. And they're not 1A, 2A. Like a lot of them are 3A, 4A. Like they're in that Chicago Catholic League Blue, which is like murderer's row, basically. Um, so it's interesting that they're public schools every year, and they're always really good. And honestly, like a lot of the guys that have come out from Illinois that are like big leaguers or like high level players are all like small. A good chunk of them are smaller school, public school guys, just kind of from the middle of nowhere. And the baseball's just it's all dispersed, but it's all good.
Baling hay all day, man. Right?
Country boys, the country boys.
Exactly. Dave, when you're talking about experience though, and no matter what, and Diego mentioned freshman, a freshman kid here, whatnot. We always look at the class 6, and that's an easy one. You're looking at you get a load of seniors like we see with Eureka and whatnot. But when you start talking about class 4, especially in the metro area, which there is a lot of class 4, you're relying on some sophomores, maybe a freshman. And sometimes you really got to have that kid's got to have his head put on right too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not just the ability, the baseball ability, the skills, the athleticism, the physicality, it's the mentality, right? You're playing grown men. You're playing 17 and 18-year-olds. You're not playing 14U baseball anymore, no matter how national of the competition it was. This is big boy baseball, and you're going to fail, right? You're not going to, as a freshman, just absolutely set the world on fire and face zero adversity. So, a lot of those kids that are playing freshmen at that, some of the kids that are playing freshman ball in those smaller schools, they're average to good baseball players, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the kids playing varsities freshmen at those smaller schools are very good baseball players and not as used to failing. So it's just being okay with failure, using it as a motivator, understanding that it's going to happen, and being able to grow from it versus just kind of expecting, well, I played 14U major baseball, and we played teams from all over America. I'm going to be a varsity stud. It's not how it works. It's never how it works. It's a different game at the varsity level, even at the smaller schools, just because of maturity, growth, and just genetics in general. Like you're not playing against kids when you're playing varsity baseball, and it takes a mentality and a mindset, one of basically fearlessness, but also of humility, of understanding that you're one of many at the high school level. You're there for it's a team goal. It's a team sport. It's not summer showcase travel ball where you're trying to put up stats. It's more about, how can I help my team win? Can I get a bunt down? Can I be a great base runner? If I'm not starting that day, how can I help the team off the bench? Can I learn from these upperclassmen? All things that if you come in a little bit too full of yourself, you might miss that a little bit. And the older guys, they see it and they take note. And you can just tell the younger guys that are adored and really loved by their upper class teammates. You can tell who those guys are really fast just by watching them interact with the upperclassmen and the respect those upperclassmen show them. An 18-year-old showing a 15-year-old respect, like that's special. You got to earn that. So it's not an easy thing to do.
There's a team that stands out to me in the metro area in class 4, and I think is Duchesne. They won the district.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, they got TJ Greasy back, which is a big addition to their staff and their lineup, and obviously in the middle of their infield, Jackson Nicodeme is obviously an outstanding baseball player on both sides of the ball for them. Jay Forrest is a big, strong dude who can absolutely swing it from the left side. They've got senior leadership. I'm not too familiar with the kids in the 27 and below classes, but I know they have a very strong senior class. They're battle tested. They've won state before at the class 3 level. I'm I hope to feel this feeling one day where you win state at a lower level and you move up. Maybe there's a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, like, hey, we're up now and we got to go find a way to do it at a class higher. And I'm sure that's kind of what they're feeling right now is, hey, we're up. Let's go make the most of this. And we did it at class 3 already. Let's do what needs to be done at class 4.
Yeah. And that's the thing to me, the experience level, like as you alluded to, class 3 champs 2 years ago, they beat a very good, Brennan Goring in the district championship game 2-1 last year. It was a fantastic baseball game. I watched that one. These kids, they know how to win. And to me, and then you get your number 1 back who didn't pitch for him last year, is back this year, and you got that 1-2 punch. They've got plenty of kids in that. I like what Coach Hollander does with that squad. I think that's a team that they have I think a legit shot at winning class 4 this year. And I would think they're probably going to stay class 4 with winning the district. I don't know how many championship points go along with those things. It's something I got to get a little more well-versed on personally, but that's a team to me. I know we talk a lot about MICDS. I think Orchard Farm could be another one that's interesting to me. They have the 3 guys. They have 3 really good pitchers there. And of course, the junior now this year, if he can snap back offensively from he's got all the tools, and that's Blake Hallra behind the plate for Orchard Farm. So I think as far as class 4, Lutheran South, you can't count out Lutheran South either. They're always good.
They've, there's a high chance MICDS is class 5 because of the success they've had recently. So they might not even be in the class 4 conversation. And that's a big heavy hitter there to get out of class 4. Opens the doors for Duchesne and Lutheran South. Lutheran South every year finds a way to compete. They play a strong schedule. They've got brothers. One's a senior, Vince Dalton, and his younger brother, Jack. Jack was shown the other day at Ace Pitching. He was 97 on a shuffle. So he's a 6'6", right-handed pitcher, infielder, outfielder who is an absolute freak. He's a 6'7", 60 guy, hits ball 100 plus, and like literally watch the video. It's one shuffle and it's 97 out of the hand in January. So find me a class 4 arm that's got that kind of firepower. There ain't many of them. So assuming Jack can get on the mound and command the baseball and do what's harder than throwing hard and is actually pitch, that could be a big arm for them. They have Braden King, who hasn't gotten a ton of time due to injury, but he was a mid-80s righty as a sophomore until he went under the knife. He's coming back strong. They're always a tough out. And especially being in class 4, moving down from class 5 to class 4, it just makes them that much more dangerous for those other class 4 teams.
Man, I saw you shaking your head about Lutheran South there, Diego. You're like,
I saw the video of the Dalton kid, and it was pretty electric. So I figured that if he's on the mound and he's actually can put the ball over the plate, it's got to be pretty good. So I don't know anything else about them other than that they have a physical specimen with all sorts of tools on their team.
Well, his older brother Vince has got some real juice at the plate too. So between those are 2 potent bats in the middle. Sometimes that's all it takes at the class 4 level is 2 big bats like that and a couple role players around them. Which I'm sure there are kids at Lutheran South that are great baseball players that we're not naming right now. That will be a strong supporting cast.
Yeah. Sullivan's another one. Sullivan's returning some offense. They have one of the pitchers I know, Gower's on his way. He's out, but I think Sullivan. We had him ranked early in our not too early stuff in class 4 at number 10. So I think they're still viable. That's a tough team. Duchesne's in there in our top 10. I think it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what you said about MICDS. Did they win districts? Yeah, they did win district last year, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, Dave. That could be.
They've got
That's
they've got some pitching depth too. So they'll be tough in class 4. I'm sorry, in class 5 even. They'll be tough.
Mhm.
They're a team that when I was still at Webster and I was talking to Luke Condren and he told me they were moving up because I was celebrating Vianney was moving up. I'm like, okay, sweet, Vianney's out. Class 5 is winnable again. And then Luke's like, well, we're probably going to move to class 5. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't
So
even think about that. And it's tough because when we look at this, I was looking at the enrollments and, St. Francis Borgia last year was a class 6 school because of all the stuff, just the continuing. And I think it's tough where they were. They had their enrollment this year was 368. And I mean, man, and you got to go compete at class 6. That's kind of tough.
Yeah, I wish.
oh, it's great.
I know that's a unique situation, but I wished when they did some of those things they had some context behind it too. Like St. Francis Borgia, obviously they had a really good team. They had several good players in their team, several college level players in their team. But I would attribute a majority of the success they had to the fact that they had Jack Noby, who was probably one of the better players, like on both sides of the ball, his junior and senior year here. Like when a kid like that leaves and you take that school and you bump them up into the biggest classification in the state, it's that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I know.
Then they got to stay there for 5 years.
Is it 5 years,
Which
Dave?
that makes even less sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. There's got to be some context. And when you start looking at, the level, yeah, because last year, I mean, they competed okay, but they're not going to be, we'll have to look and continue. And I really like Coach Struckoff. Really enjoy I think he's one of the better coaches around. And, but that's just a tough task, man. That is a tough task. And when you start talking about these things within baseball, this is where I think the rules and stuff, and I understand why they did it, but I agree with you, Diego. There still has to be some kind of mechanism that says, okay, wait, what are we doing here? And can we ease the rules after maybe a 2-year period if we don't see them being able to compete at that level? Because Class 6 in the state of Missouri, it's brutal. It's just it's a very and if you can't develop the pitching that you need to even compete at that level, it's going to be tough. It just is, no matter what, no matter what. So that's good stuff. I like this conversation. I know it's kind of we're starting the new year. I appreciate the information because it's interesting. I don't think people know enough about what happens district wise. Where's the changes? What are the things? Who are the teams? When we're talking about the metro area, we're gonna widen out the gap. We're going to talk about some hitters coming up. We're going to be talking about some different subjects. We're going to get into a lot of different discussions. And guys, your thoughts on, when we're talking about high school baseball and leadership, final thoughts on this. When you're looking at kids, Diego, and you start, I understand the measurables and the things like that. And I know you're scouting and doing those types of things. But do you have conversations with coaches about the kids' makeup, who they are as people, those types of things?
Yeah, I don't know very many college coaches that want people coming into their locker room that are not good human beings. Like I don't think there's a lot of guys that are pumped a whole lot about that. I think those conversations, like what kind of person are they? Me personally have had those type of conversations more than like to me that's the starter, and then it's like okay, like what's their work ethic, like do their teammates like them, are they a team captain, stuff like that. So if you factored like if you say that's a part of makeup, which I would say it is, then yeah, I mean it's obviously important. Like I think you can break that down into several different things. Like if you're looking at a professional at a professional level, like where everybody's a really good player, the guys that really succeed are the ones that have high makeup and they're okay with failing and they're okay with like being on their own for the first time. And I think a lot of that is attributed to college too. Like when you step on a college campus as a freshman, you're probably one of the worst players there, to be honest. Like especially in today's world where everybody in college baseball is 22, 23, 24 years old. If you can't handle failure, if you can't handle like being on your own for the first time, if you can't handle being the youngest guy, if you can't handle all that, like it's probably just not going to work out anymore, given how it all is now. So yeah, it's really important. Like you have to be a good baseball player. You have to have a certain level of talent. You have to have a certain level of athleticism and whatnot to play the game. I think what separates guys is what goes on up top and how they can carry themselves, how they act around their teammates, and all sorts of things. So I think if you're evaluating a guy at any level, if you're a pro guy, if you're a college coach, if you're me, like whoever you are, like if you're not factoring that in, you're just taking a pretty big piece of the puzzle, and kind of going all over the place, really. And honestly, like the organizations that do rankings and stuff like that, like I think sometimes people look at player rankings and they just look at it as who's got the highest exit velo, who's got the highest 60, who's got the highest projection. Like I can promise you those people, those organizations, like at all of them, if they're doing it the right way, they're factoring in makeup, and they're factoring in like the person's like how they are as a human, what their drive is, what their work ethic is, because it's a huge part of the scouting equation.
There you go. Dave, last word here. You, as we see on your shirt there, you're repping the Principia folks. You took on a new job. You're walking into this program. Culture, I know, is big to you. How are you setting those things in place, and what priorities are you setting in that to where those things become reality? Oh, we can't hear you, buddy.
We lost them.
We did. No, we lost his volume. Oh no.
I can't hear him
Okay,
either.
1 second. He's gonna do something here real quick. That was weird. That doesn't happen. So while Dave readjusts his accoutrements, we'll take a moment and play some elevator music. Doom chicka doom doom chicka doom chicka doom doom chicka doom chicka doom doom chicka.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we were doing the
Yeah.
elevator music while you were doing that.
That's good. That's good.
Go ahead, bro.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, I want baseball to matter at Principia. Yeah, that was the big thing when we got to Webster is we got to a school that was big known for football and basketball, and baseball is kind of an afterthought. And now here at Prin, our basketball team's ranked number 2 in America, after knocking off 1 and 4 over Christmas break. So baseball is hoping to kind of use what football and basketball are doing, and just make our sport matter there. Show kids that you can be a great person, you can be a high level individual, and also play a high level sport. It's more about just going to play sports. It's about playing sports in an environment that's going to try to enrich you educationally and enrich your mind, and just try to help make you be the best person you can be, and help make you be the best teammate you can be, but also hopefully be really good and play competitive sports against the best teams you can find. We're building from the ground up. We're basically a brand new program in my mind in terms of how people consider Principia as a baseball school. We're not a baseball school. My goal is to in a few years be in that conversation of you're going to send your son to Vianney, CBC, MICDS, Principia. Principia is never in that conversation. So my goal is how can I get my school into that conversation when people are talking about sending their kids to a private institution. It's gonna be hard work, but I'm excited for the task at hand, and I got some good people around me. Our administration's amazing. Our facilities are next to none. We have all the support we could possibly need, and we just need to get to work.
I love it. I love it. Great conversation, guys. I loved it. I know we talked we filled a lot of different parts of this, but I really enjoyed that. And there are some teams we talked about, and we'll see what happens. But when you start separating those separators, I think leadership, impact players, guys with those high character motivations, I think that's what sets the talent apart. So I'm with you, Diego. I thought that was spot on, bud. So good stuff, guys. Thanks as always. Appreciate your time. Folks, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, hit the like button. Helps the algorithm, keeps people finding us. We do appreciate it. We want to get that. We want to stretch our subscribers even more on that side. Join the YBM Club. Get our exclusive content. We got some cool stuff coming up. We're gonna also we got something I think is pretty cool. We're gonna start our barbershop conversations. We might even see if we can get Dave over there and get his beard trimmed and talk to him about some baseball and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking at some fun stuff coming up. So make sure, please, join the club. Support Youth Baseball Midwest. We appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers. Diego, what should pitchers do?
Should throw strikes, and preferably throw them hard.
I like the caveat. All you hitters, Dave gives the hitters some advice.
We'll go old school today. We'll say hit it where they ain't.
I love that. Thanks, folks. We'll see y'all next time.